Hello, everyone. It looks like I'm sideways again. There we go. Let's fix that. I already fixed that once today, so I don't know if that's going to happen again, but thank you for joining us. I think there's something with my phone that's making that happen because it doesn't seem to happen, I don't think, with Andrew's phone. So anyway, welcome. Thank you so much. Hello, Susie. Thank you for joining in. If you're out there, please say hello. I'd love to hear from you. I missed you all last night because I went to my pottery class. Andrew took care of the live. Thank you to Andrew for taking care of that yesterday. He showed you circular brick stitch. So if you've ever wanted to learn circular brick stitch or just wanted to start playing around with seed beads and you haven't done that before, hopefully you'll take a look at that video and catch a replay of that. This week we are in our reset week, so we are not doing any live sales. We have shut down our website. We are working hard to try to catch up on everything. I feel like we're behind on the catching up, but it's things are happening. So we are just doing tutorials, we are doing demos. Today's show is just kind of a chat and chill and hangout session, and I'm going to show you some of my latest pottery that you may have missed. Some of this was in the online store. The online store, like I said, is down right now. Hello, Marianne. The online store is down right now, but it will pop back up in the online store when we come back from our reset. But some of it has never gotten to the online store, and some of it is brand new as of yesterday. So Andrew was already done with his live before I got home yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to show you all the things that I have just picked up. There's a few new ones. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I hope you all like them. If you're watching this on my William Tries Things channel on Facebook, thank you so much for watching here too. We go live here at Allegory Gallery generally around 7:30 Eastern time every day. But during this reset, we've been picking and choosing different times. I just happened to get up here to the cottage in time today to do this now, so I figured I'll do it now. I've been back and forth a few times. I did a lot of work from the house today as far as packing and sorting and all that good stuff. I did a bunch last night as well. I'm trying to normally I go person by person and kind of do things. I'm trying to do everything kind of lot by lot or lot number by lot number. So it's been a little different, but I am getting a bunch of things ready for everybody to go out. If you haven't seen any shipments yet, they're still happening. Don't worry. I don't know if we're going to get fully caught up, but we're going to be very, very close, I think, by the end of the weekend. It is going to take me the whole weekend to get through things. I'll be working at things from the store as well. But things are going. Things are going. And I'm actually pretty happy with the progress. I would have liked more, of course, but we had Ida Bell Spade this Wednesday. And Monday, of course, we still weren't quite ready to do the reset. So Monday was still a day that we did a live show, and that kind of pushed everything back a little bit. So we had planned for this to go all the way through next Monday. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we're not getting as much done here in the cottage. I did get a lot of my my shipping area. One of the biggest things we wanted to do was move the shipping area in the cottage. And the reason we wanted to do that is because the shipping area was kind of in the middle of things. And that's the exact spot where we would actually prefer to have our casting set up. So we're moving the shipping area into kind of the other half of that room that it was in before. And I'm actually kind of liking it because it feels lighter. I have more windows in that area. I have I don't know, it just feels more homey. There's a kind of a wooden wall there. I have more cabinet space. And we're, like I said, we're still really getting it set up, but I'll share some photos maybe Or should I just take you over there? Maybe I'll just take you over there now. It's a mess, though. Let me just say, it is a mess right now. But yeah, let's take a walk over. I think that'll be fun. Everything is a mess here right now because we are really in the middle. We tore a lot of stuff up thinking we were going to get more done than we did. And we have not, unfortunately. So let me see. What's the best way? Let me flip this camera here. Let me remember how to do this. And okay, so let me see if this is right. Okay, so over here was where my desk was. And you can see I had this one kind of window right here. That window's blocked up. All of our windows are blocked up for it's plastic, which is really, we use that to keep the cold out and the heat out because they're single pane windows. Someday we'll get, you know, either fancier windows in the place. That'll be a long way down the line. Who knows? Maybe not, but or even fancier plastic instead of our pellet bags. But they're super thick and they work really well. So they help keep everything, keep our costs down as far as heating and all that. So you'll see those in the windows. But anyway, so my desk was here, which was kind of nice. I mean, I like this brick wall. And over here was where we had the AG fine pewter cabinets. And over here was some of our packing. But it was kind of like, I felt like I was in this corner. And so what we've done is, and like I said, everything's a mess, but my desk got moved over here. The AG fine pewter is all now here, stacked up and ready to ship more easily. I have another packing table here, so I can use my desk and the packing table. We're going to clear all this out. This is some wood from leftover projects that we've had, but I'm going to be clearing, we're going to clear all that out. So I'll have all this cabinet space down here and over here. I'll have this top cabinet space to store stuff as well. I have nice little plants over here. These really need to be repotted at least and put outside here for the summer, but we wanted to make sure it was warm enough for them. So these are all these geraniums, and we've had these geraniums, I think, since we opened Star Cottage Studio. They're the same ones we've had. And we bring them in and overwinter them in here, and then we take them out in the spring or summer, and they get to spend the spring, summer, fall outside. And then we overwinter them again. And they have been growing. I don't know how many years we've had the cottage now. 4 years, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And they keep growing and producing, and they do well. So anyway, and then we have the online store stock in here, which I'm going to get a little bit more organized. And yeah, so this is, I have a TV in here that I'm going to put the TV in this corner so I can kind of have that on. Those of you who watch us know that I like to have TV on when there aren't when there aren't any other people here. I like to have a TV on in the background. So this is going to be my new little area. It's bigger than my old area was, has more space in there, and I can kind of make it my own. So that's going to be, and I have the heater and air conditioner right there. So that'll be nice too, instead of waiting for it to reach all the way over here, which sometimes took a while. So that's what we've been working on in here, trying to get this done so I can do more packing and shipping. And I've been working a lot from the house. So I have a bunch of things in that box. I have a bunch of things spread out that are all going to come together here in the next few days. So that's that. And then let me flip this camera back around. Hi again. So that's what we're working on over here. And Andrew's been working on his space, but I'm not going to show you his space without him saying so. But he has another space on the other side. You can kind of see it behind me here. This is behind here is going to be his space. But we have everything. Whew, in order to make his space happen and my space happen, there was a lot over in where I am now was kind of a sitting area. So we had our refrigerator over there and the microwave. We had a couch, and you probably saw that little fake plant in the middle of that room. That was over there. It was kind of, there was a little coffee table, and I had an extra packing kind of table over there. And that is kind of, that had to all move. So it kind of switched places for a while. But we had big hopes for everything happening. 1 week is not enough. And we even said we knew that this week was just to really get a start. The biggest thing this week is to hopefully finish up getting my shipping area working and get the shipping out. That is the biggest thing. Also working on the website in the background. I shared a little sneak peek of our website. Just a very quick, brief sneak peek of things that I'm working on. I don't know if that's going to be done by the end of the week, but we're going to see. We're going to see how much we can push through. Me being at the store this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, really kind of, I can do certain things from the store. I can't do everything from the store. So I should get more work hopefully done on the website, and of course more packing done. And we may get all the packing, instead of getting all the shipping completed, actually shipped out and completed. That may happen throughout next week, but the packing of everything I'm hoping to get done so that everybody's orders are packed up. And actually putting them through the shipping system may take a little longer because I can't do that as easily from the store. But we're still making a lot of progress, and I'm really happy with the progress. And I think we're making we're making a huge leap from where we were, as far as getting caught up. I think, at least I feel like it, and yeah. So everything may not be going exactly as we planned. Like I said, we had Ida Bell into spay yesterday. Wow. Yeah, it was just yesterday. So, wow. She's recovering well. And she is a little firecracker. So Gertie took it a little bit more easy after and during her recovery. Ida Bell is just gung-ho, ready to be in the world. And we have tried to contain her. She gets very stubborn. She's a very stubborn cat. So if she wants to do something, she tries her hardest to do it. It is one of those things that is super cute sometimes, but also kind of bad other times. So we had to put her in her little cat carrier to sleep because she was trying to jump up on everything, and really jump. And so we kept her in there at night. She ended up somehow taking her own cone off. I don't know. I thought it was on tight enough. It was hard for me to get back on her. So I thought it was, but she sneaked out of her own cone overnight. Luckily, she didn't disrupt her sutures and stuff. So that was good. But today she was a little firecracker this morning, and then she has calmed down. She pushed herself, even with her cone, she pushed herself under the couch. And she's been mostly sleeping and resting under the couch all day. So that's good. She's been a little bit calmer today, but she is still, she's one that we kind of have to watch. And Andrew and I have been trying to take turns watching her, because she can get bad. And so we've been trying to take turns so that our patience doesn't wear too thin. Because she's a little bit naughty and she's stubborn. So I don't know where she gets that from at all, but probably me. But yeah, so she's doing okay though. Let me see who else has joined us. Vicky is here. Hello, Vicky. Marianne is here. Michelle is here. I saw Marianne earlier, right? Yeah. Susie is here. Oh, excuse me, everybody. Whew. Of course, I'm on the live. I'm going to start sneezing. Let's see. Thank you all for joining us. Susie says that looks very nice. It is coming along. Um, it is coming along. It's not anywhere near where I want it to be yet, but it is feeling more like an an area to be in. So part of the thing with shipping here, the shipping department, like I said, the area that it was in that I showed you earlier is really kind of by the stairs leading up here into the bead room. It's kind of a high traffic area. Um, Anytime Andrew's working in the metal room and some of his stuff, like his pickling stuff and certain things are in this little area across from the bead room. So he would be walking through there. Anybody who comes in to any of these rooms is walking through that area. So it's one of those things that it wasn't kind of contained in any way. And so sometimes things would get pushed aside or moved aside and mixed in with other things. And it just made things very, a little bit chaotic. And so now we kind of have my desk there as a partitioning agent. We have the online store shelf there as a partitioning agent. So I kind of have my own room now, which we may even do more as time goes on to block that off a little bit. But for now, it works. And it's going to be, I think, a lot easier to work in and to keep kind of myself contained. We are starting to implement more systems. That was another thing that we were doing with the reset day. We're implementing new shipping systems and things that in case in case we grow and we start making more money and we can hire somebody to do it, it's not going to be hard for them to for me to leave off and them to jump in, or vice versa if they take a vacation and I need to jump in. So we're implementing more systems like that hopefully will grow with time. And we're trying to, when I jumped in after Barb, I jumped in with the idea that I was doing this, right? And I still do this, but I need to, and we need to think about the future and what will happen when we do get bigger or grow and we are able to afford someone to come in again, because that's the goal, right? The goal is to keep growing. We need to think about how that will work, because right now, Andrew talked a little bit about it. I think yesterday I was listening a little bit on the way to my pottery class. Maybe it was the day before, but he was talking about how the systems are here and there because, sometimes things come from the online store, sometimes things come from our lives. And, there are other ways that we sell too, the D-Stash group and just Andrew selling things on his personal Facebook page, or people grabbing things from my William Tries Things page. There are many ways that we do things here and things get combined, and I know about them. Andrew knows about them, but it would be something that would be very hard for somebody else to understand. And so right now, it does kind of, it's a lot to keep in my brain. So we're working on systems to make that easier. And we have some things, we're working on for those who want holds, we're working on a 2-week hold system. So we will be able to hold your orders for 2 weeks and then they must ship. That's what it's going to be. We'll hold them for up to 2 weeks for those of you who buy things from the live often or buy things in the online store often. But after 2 weeks of the start of your new order, we will have a time up and we will send it out. And for those of you who don't want holds, hopefully we'll have a system that'll make it a lot easier just to get things sent out one after another. If you want to keep paying different, multiple shipping rates and multiple shipping amounts for every order. But that's the goal. Anyway, let me scroll through the comments. Susan is here. Hello, Susan. Says, can't wait to get my orders. I can't wait for you to get them either. I am very excited about getting things out to everybody. Angela is here. Hello, Angela. Michelle says, bless you. Thank you so much. Mary says, isn't it interesting how each cat will react differently to the same procedure? It is. Gertie, she kind of took it more easy. She did try to jump here and there, but she was not as stubborn about it as Idabelle. Idabelle was still woozy from the anesthesia and the pain meds. She was still like, they come home and she was still like stumbling around, still trying to jump. So, and I know that cats like to be high, and I think that was part of it. They feel safer when they're up higher, but with the sutures and the clumsiness, we did not want her jumping. So she was a little something else. Hello, Teresa. Thank you for joining us. Glad to see you here. Susan says, what about a weekly shipping? Hold for the week of the lives, then ship. Maybe. We can't have multiple systems, or we can't have too many different systems. So for the lives, it's probably going to be 2 weeks. That's something we've kind of talked about. Most people, you know, that you can always email us. That's the thing. You can always email us and say, hey, I'd like my orders shipped if you can now. So that is something. But I cannot keep a list of people who want a week, who want 2 weeks, who want every day. We will make a list of people who prefer to hold, and we will try and make a list of people who prefer to ship right away. And the hold will be probably a 2-week hold, and the people who want to ship will be right away. Anybody in between there who doesn't really care either way, we'll probably, if we know that you're somebody that orders often, we will probably put you on the 2-week list. So we'll get to all those details, and we're still working out how that's all going to work, because there are people who literally order every single day from our lives. And if you're paying $4.90 or whatever it is, $4.60 shipping every time, you might be only ordering a $5 thing on Monday, and that wouldn't be right. I wouldn't feel right charging you $9.60 or whatever it is for that order and shipping it out. Marion says a 2-week hold is good for me. Yeah, I think most people are okay with 2 weeks. That's kind of the vibe that we've gotten through things. But if there comes a time that you need things before that, we're working on a whole system where packages will kind of be setting up, we're working, because I have more room now is really what it is. Because I have more room now, packages will be able to be kind of marked and date stamped in a way. We're working on all these ways and all these things to date stamp everything and to have them, kind of more ready to go-ish. And it's a lot because it's just me and Andrew, and really this was really just me. Andrew doesn't do a huge amount of packing or shipping. So it's one of those things that he is helping me figure out these new systems, though, because there are things even like we're discussing, if any of you worked in a restaurant, how they have expiration dots or stickers that they use. So I didn't get into this too much when I was helping in the restaurant, because I dealt more with staffing rather than procedural things like that for the kitchen. But the chefs did have them, and Andrew was talking about them, where you have different color stickers for different kind of dates and expiration things. So you knew what would expire, like every color had a different meaning, and you would know when that food was going to expire. So that's kind of how we're working on setting up orders, is that we know that the reds have been here for a week, for example, and the blues have been here for a week and a half, so they're the next to go out. So that's kind of like the thing that we're working on. And yeah, it's a lot, but it's something that hopefully in the end will help. And we're only doing this because as we get caught up, we could send every order pretty much immediately. That's the way things are going. And once I'm caught up, we do all of the sorting of the items at the end of every evening, generally, unless there's something happens. But generally every evening we do the sorting of everything, and everybody's gets bagged up. They don't get wrapped in tissue paper at that point. That usually happens sometimes on my weekends at the store. So that's one of the other things for a 2-week kind of thing, is if I don't get to packing everything in tissue, that usually from the whole week gets done on that weekend. But I am working on ways that maybe, because we're up late anyway, we just are. And if I can get an area in the house, because sometimes we do these lives from the house, but also when we do them here, even at Star Cottage, we generally go home to eat after the live. So if I get an area at the house where I can go to the house, and as we're kind of after we're done eating and just kind of watching a little TV, I can pack things, then we're getting to a better system. And that's hopefully what's going to happen once I get caught up. Have to get caught up first. Hello, Anne. Thank you for joining us. Susan says, honestly, I rarely do I need anything I order. And that's okay, but some people do, and that's okay too. And we've always had this. We've always told people in the lives, if you need your stuff on a certain date or like shipped out this week, send us an email and we will do our best to get everything to you. And I think we've been pretty successful at that. I have a few emails right now that I'm working on that some people need their things quickly. So I'm working on trying to get those out on tomorrow or Saturday morning. But that is something. Even if you have something that we've had for a little while and you need it, let us know. But anyway, let us get caught. We're working on getting caught up this week. And I think we should get mostly there by the end of the weekend into the middle of next week, because we were delayed a few days and we've been hanging out with Ida Bell a little bit more. It might take a little extra few days than we thought, but I'm really getting into a groove, and getting into the new shipping area, even though it's not really fully set up yet, is kind of really helping, because I do have a packing table and I am able to work on more things. Michelle says 2 weeks is good. I don't order often, but when I do, I'm in no hurry. Good. So yeah, so that is what is going on here. It's a lot, but it's not really that exciting. Maybe, I don't know. It's exciting to me because I feel like once this can be done, I feel lighter. As Anne says, organizing and making new processes is exciting. It is, because it should allow us to get things to you all much quicker. And that's what's important to me, because I know that we have not been the best at that. We are good at a lot of things. I think we do a lot of things well. Give us some credit. I think our interaction and any customer service that we do offer people or need to offer people is pretty top notch. I think we go out of our way to try to make things as good as possible for everybody and to make everyone happy in the end. And I think sometimes we go out of our way to do that, and we don't mind doing that. We want people happy, but I do know that our shipping has been something that has been one of those things that's been hard, and it's never been as good as I've wanted it to be. Even when Barb was here, there were things that I did that held her up. So I'm working on me as much as everything else through all of this, and so I think it's going to be a lot better, and I'm excited by that. Teresa says your customer service is excellent. Thank you. We do try really hard, and it makes me sad sometimes when our shipping doesn't meet the expectations of people, and whatever their expectations are. You can't make everyone happy. That's just the way business is. We know that. You can't make everyone happy, but we do our best. And this reset is part of that. We've shut down sales for an entire week so that there's nothing coming in, pretty much nothing coming in. We still had the D-stash open for a little bit, but we have nothing coming in to make more, so that we can make a hard pause right here and kind of allow me hopefully to get as caught up as I can. And Andrew's helping with it all. He has his own projects though that he's working on as well. So we're kind of both up against a deadline here that our deadline is self-imposed, but because we've said it so much and we've talked about it so much, we really I want to do my best to hit it. Like I said, I don't know if we're going to be exactly on, but we're going to do our best. Some of the things that I wanted to do, like the full online store renovation, I don't know that that's going to happen. We might just turn on the online store as it was and do the release of the online store a little bit later. Or we may turn it on as I am working on it, because I've gotten chunks of it done that it could be probably turned on just fine. But I don't think it's quite where I want it, but we can keep working on it. Everything's a work in progress, or work in process, work in progress, making progress, processes. So, I have to remember that. I'm one of those people that I'm very destination oriented, very destination oriented. And I look at everything through it has to be finished and it has to be completed and done. So when I give myself a deadline like this, I'm like, the whole thing has to be done, like done and ready. And as I, get a little bit older, and as I realize that, as you get older, you don't always get as much done as you used to. That's one of those things that I'm realizing. And it's harder to push yourself sometimes. And we learn also that it's not good to push yourself. With age comes wisdom sometimes, that you need to give yourself some grace. And so that's one of those things that I am working on, that things are works in progress. All of them are. There's one of those things that it's one of those things that you really, it's not about being done. It's about making things better continually, right? I would love to say that, this week is going to solve everything for our shipping and it's going to be perfect after that. And there are still going to be blips. We're implementing new processes. We think they're going to work, but they may have some blips that we didn't think about as we go on and as time goes on. And things may have to change again. But we're hoping that we are constantly working toward things that are better, right? Let's see here. Michelle says, with all the changes, can we still ask for specific items on an email like before? Yes, of course, Michelle. If you want us to special order you things, I think that's what you're referring to, because you do that sometimes with the delicas and whatnot. If you are looking for specific things, you can, yes, always send us an email. There is nothing changing about how we're selling at this point, because I think how we're selling works for multiple people, and it works well. We sell in the online store. We do these live sales. I would like things to pick up a little bit more, possibly in the online store, so that we don't have to do live selling all the time. I've really liked having this week of Andrew doing some demos and us kind of taking this time to chat, and I'm going to show you some of my pottery and not being forced to sell things. But right now, the lives are definitely where most of our income comes from, or at least a large portion of it. And so those are still going to be, going on for the next foreseeable future. But if we can start making our online store, I think, more personable, putting more things in there more often, that's an important thing that I'm trying to work into the schedule for me. Going forward, is to keep adding more new things to the online store. And so more of our income can start translating that way. And then we can start doing more tutorials. And Andrew was talking about this too, that, Jen was working with us for our Saturday morning tutorials. And when she got another job, those took a back seat right now. But we would definitely, those are all the things we want to keep doing. And so nothing is really changing about the way you can purchase from us at this moment. And we love that independent customer service that we get to give. If you send us an email and say, hey, can you get this for us? A lot of businesses don't do that. If it's on the website, you can buy it. If it's not on the website, go find it somewhere else. That's not what we're about. We are about trying to help you find the things you need. And that's, if we don't have it, we'll see if we can get it for you. We're not opposed to that. So I think that's one of the things that makes us special. That's one of the things that still makes us a bead store, right? Some online bead stores have gotten so big that they lose that sense of community and that sense of, small business, right? And so, we still have a physical store, and people still walk in and saying, do you have this and do you have that? And if we can't help them find it, we still write down a list and we see if we can get things for them. We take down names and numbers. That's what I think a small business bead store is about. And so, while we hope to grow, we don't want to lose that personal touch in things. So yes, to answer that, Michelle, yes, you can. Susan says, I wish I could come help you pack and ship. I work for beads. I wish you could too, because we've got a lot of beads and we've got a lot of help we could use. Anne says, I was just thinking about customer service because I'm having an issue at a large store, and I thought, oh, sorry. And I thought there's no customer service anymore except at small businesses like Allegory Gallery. Thank you. We appreciate that a lot. And that means a lot that we came to your mind, because we do try. And like I said, I know I've fallen down on the job on shipping for some people, especially. Some people they're perfectly fine with how we're doing things. I think the majority of people are, especially people who have followed us for a long time. But I know that things can be quicker, and they should be quicker, and you should be able to count on us to get you things more quickly. And that's what I'm hoping that all of this leads to. Marion says it is a continuous project, right? Yeah, it is. Vicky says, we perfectionists have it rough as I'm sitting here washing my loose change. I'm rarely needing my live claims in a hurry. Mostly it's to keep my hoard replenished. Yeah, and I appreciate that. And, I'm one of those people that I rely on my brain for a lot of things. And as we do more and more and more, I'm realizing that my brain has some faulty areas. And maybe that's with age. I used to be somebody who could speak 4 or 5 languages in any one day. And I feel like maybe I just don't exercise my brain like that. Maybe my brain just doesn't want to do things like that anymore. But sometimes I will pack things for people and I'll send them out and I'll be like, I just sent them a shipment. And then I realize it's been a little while since I've sent them a shipment after all. And so we're working with things like that are going to make things easier. And Andrew's helping me with that because he has a lot of experience in restaurants, which you wouldn't think that there'd be like this connection. But like I said, the whole idea with food expiring, things needing to move in a certain time period, there's a lot of similarities there. So he brought that to my attention, and I knew it was kind of a thing, but I had never actually done it or used it myself. So we're working on things like that. So yeah, that's what's going on here at Allegory Gallery. If you're watching this on my William Tries Things page, thank you for watching from there. Please say hi if you are. But yeah, we're going to get to the pottery here soon. But I wanted to go over that with everybody here at who buys from us at Allegory Gallery. And because we've been talking about this reset thing for about 2 weeks now, and we've been doing it all this week or most of this week. And really, it's only been 3 days. And one of those days was us taking our cat Idabelle to get spayed. So really, it's been 2 days we've had to do this. And I think we've done a lot in 2 days, to be perfectly honest. It's not as, like I said, it's not as much as I wanted to, but it never is, right? We set big goals, and sometimes we meet them, and sometimes they get made into smaller goals that then combine into a bigger goal. And that's what it is. Anyway, how are you all doing? How have you been? What's going on? I didn't get to see y'all yesterday. Did you watch Andrew's demo yesterday, or his tutorial to learn how to do the circular brick stitch? Did anybody try it? I watched part of it on my way to my pottery class. And I was actually still here at the cottage when he very first started it. So I watched it a little bit here, and then I headed down to my pottery class, but I could watch it along the way. And it seemed like people were interested and were excited. I really liked when he got out the paper and drew it really big, because I know that sometimes watching tutorials or even looking at seed bead books where they show you the patterns and how to do them, I get very confused. And I used to be really good with patterns and things. That's another thing. I think I've lost that talent for a little bit, but I get confused with that. But him drawing it really big and showing how things went, really, I think, helped. Terry says, I watched Andrew. Oh, good. Marion says, I did watch the demo, but not tried it yet. Worked this morning and had a nap this afternoon. I just saw a thing pop up, an article, which I didn't get a chance to read yet. I hope I saved it for later. But it says that napping, well, we kind of maybe knew, but they're talking about napping can add years and years to your life. Like taking an afternoon nap, they didn't say how long, but can add like 6.5 years to your life or something like that. I said, I need to get back to napping, but there's no time for naps. I did take about 10 minutes in the car. When I first got here, we have this thing, both Andrew and I do it. He does it sometimes more than me. I don't do it. I do it, but only when I'm by myself. So whenever we get to a destination, a lot of times, like when we're coming up here to the cottage, I'll get out of the car, I'll open the door here, I'll get in here, I'll start working on things or get myself situated a little bit. And he'll stay in the car and work on things on his phone. So he and he will do that for up to like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just sitting in the car, kind of working on things. And it always felt strange to me that like I would come in and start working on things and he's like, is he in here yet? That he could come in? But then I realized that I do the same thing, but when I'm by myself. So when I first pull in here to the cottage, I'm often just sitting in the car, sometimes still listening to music, but sometimes I turn the car off and I'm just kind of, it's almost like a transition from being at home doing whatever we were doing, driving, and then getting here, and it's like kind of transitioning into the next step. And I don't know if y'all do that or not. Do you get to work and like before you go into work, you just kind of sit in your car for a while? I don't know if that's a normal thing or if a lot of people do that. I'm used to just like when I get up in the morning, I don't have a morning. I get up, I get ready, and I usually leave. I do things very quickly. I usually sleep in till just about when I have just enough time to get ready and leave to wherever I'm going. I don't meander around in the mornings. I don't, make my tea and have some breakfast and just sit around and read the news for a little bit. I'm not one of those, I've never been that person in the morning. So I think for me, because I jump in the car and I go somewhere, I think that's just kind of I've gotten used to doing that. And I didn't even realize I was doing it till I realized Andrew was doing it. But do any of you do that? Mary says, oh good, since my goal is to be at least 117. Nice. I wish you well on that. I don't know if I'd want to live to 117. When I was a kid, I was always afraid of not getting older, right? And that was a whole thing for me. Like I had this weird thing that I was always worried about not necessarily dying early, but just not getting old. And I always pictured myself as getting older, and it always kind of scared me thinking about not doing it. And then, as I watched my grandparents, I watched my grandmother, I talked with her a little bit, kind of as she was getting older and having some health issues and whatnot. And she was still perfectly there and, 100% there, but she found peace in that. She found peace in the end that she was ready. She had lived a good life. She had lived a long life. I believe she was 83 or 84 when she passed. And she was okay with that. And, I don't know. I'm I guess if you can live healthy, right? If you can be healthy and still get around and be fine and have lots of energy at 117, I would think about that maybe. But I do wonder, ever since talking with her about that, do you get to a point and you're like, I don't know if I want to do more? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things that, I don't know. But it did, kind of when I talked with her, it kind of took some of that fear away, um, of not getting old. Because I was always like, when I was young, I was like, I want to live to be 90s, 100, 110. Like, I was ready for it. And when I talked with her, like, it was, it was, she was so at peace with it, that it kind of took that fear away. That if I could find that, and I mean, 80 is that's a good long time. If I double my age now, I'd be what, 90. So that's like a whole nother life for me. It's like living my life over again, um, which is kind of an interesting thought that I think about sometimes too. Teresa says, I go in, I was taught to always be on time. I'm not saying that you're not on time, right? I'm just saying that you make the time to be there at like a certain, like I I like to be, when I go to a doctor's appointment or something, I'm always early. Now, when Andrew and I do things, so a lot of times when we do things, we end up running late on things. But if I have something like that, I know like the doctor's waiting on me, or if I miss that it's going to be a whole big thing, I am there early. But I will often get a place early and then sit in my car and then go in like when I'm supposed to. It's kind of a thing. But here at the cottage, when it's not like, I do it at the grocery store too. If I'm going to the grocery store, I go to the grocery store, I pull into the parking space, and sometimes I sit in my car for like 10 minutes before I realize like, oh, I should go in and get some groceries. It's a strange thing. Marion says, no, I usually go into the building, but I'm usually early. So you just go right in. Marion says, I wish everyone was taught to be on time. Yeah, my grandmother did that. My grandmother was always early for things, for her appointments, and she told me at a young age that it's best to be early if somebody is waiting for you. And we try, and Andrew and I, we each run late sometimes, and we have a lot going on. But like I'm never late, knock on wood, unless something comes up, but I'm always early for a doctor's appointment, usually about a half an hour early, 15 minutes to a half an hour at least early for a doctor's appointment, or, appointments like that. I try to be very early for, but yeah, but that's not what I mean. It's not when you're due for anything. It's just when you get to a place, maybe you don't. Maybe it's a strange thing that not many people do. But when I get to places, I a lot of times I just consider it like decompressing, or transitioning into the next thing, but in the car. So today, anyway, the reason I brought that up is because today we were talking about naps, and I didn't take a nap, but I came here at one point, earlier, and before I came in and unlocked everything and carried all the stuff in that I had to carry in, I sat in my car and I just kind of meditated for about 10 minutes. Um, and that kind of helps. Um, Let's see. Sandra's here. Says, hi, I've been listening in the background while putting an order together. Nice. Hello, Sandra. I'm glad you're getting orders and putting them together. I like that talk. Ann says, I take the bus, so I'm usually early because I worry the bus could be late or I might miss a connection. I don't need the stress. Yeah, when I was in New York, and that was a much bigger thing. Uh, but buses and subways allowed me to do that same decompress thing because I wasn't focused on the driving, right? So I decompressed as we went along instead of like doing the driving, getting there, and then doing that decompress. So like it was kind of, maybe that's where it comes from, because I'm trying to think before New York, if I kind of did that, and I don't remember often sitting in my car like that. So I'm kind of wondering if that whole idea of kind of decompressing on public transport carried over to like I get somewhere and then I kind of, okay, do that. Let's see here. Terry says, my husband is one that stays in the car for a little while. See, some people, it's not just us. Yeah. I don't know if I've always done that or not. I guess I'm trying to think back to like college and stuff. I was usually always on the go, though, a lot more, even though we're always on the go here. But I wasn't like, I was getting to school. Like I said, I get ready and I go. So I would drive to school, or I'd walk to school, or take the bus to college. But yeah, I don't remember. I didn't do much driving, though, until I went off to college. So yeah, I didn't have as much of a chance to do that. But yeah, I always kind of hang out in the car for a little bit. Marion says, in winter here, it's too cold to sit in the car. If there's somewhere else to be. I get that. And I probably don't do it as often in the winter, to be honest. Although I probably do. I probably just don't shut the car off, but I sit in the car. Because I'm trying to think when I go grocery shopping. Because that's one of the main, like, going grocery shopping is kind of one of those things, like, you do it, you have to do it, you have to fit it in your day. And we almost do it every single day. But it's one of those things, like, it could take you 15 minutes to shop. It could take you a half hour to shop. It's one of those times when you can give yourself a little leniency to kind of de-stress a little bit. And so that's one of the places I do, I think, sit there the most. Michelle says, I am impatient. I just like to go. I get that. I am often impatient, but that's, you know, it's surprising, but it is one of the times. Anyway, let's flip it around here and take a look at some pottery. I've almost been chatting for an hour. I didn't even realize that, y'all. So let me flip this around. We're going to take a look at some of my pottery, and then I'm going to get back to working on packages because the work is not over yet. All right. So we're just going to take a look at some of the pottery that I've been making. You may have missed it. You may have not seen it in a live. Some of these were in the online store. Some of them weren't yet. But let's see, where am I going to start? Let's start with this one. So this is one of the ones that I've made recently. And this is really one of the ones that I started playing with something called engobe. And that's this down here that kind of tints the clay a different color. It's almost to make it look like a different kind of clay. This is really the clay color you can see here. Michelle says, I need to watch Andrew after this. Yeah, if you've not seen that. Do you do circular brick stitch? I can't remember if you do that or not. But this is where I started working with trying to get some of the glazes to kind of run, but do them in a way that that they're controlled. Michelle says yes. See, that'll be good. Ian says, love that one. The pop of red with that lighter green and dark clay is great. Thank you. Yeah, it's actually not a dark clay. It's this color. But that engobe allows you to kind of transform it, which I really like. And I can play around with different colors or different looks of clay. But this is one of the first ones that I started experimenting with and realizing that the engobe often stops or halts the runniness of the glaze. So this is one of the ones that I've started playing with that and really kind of seeing where things can be pushed a little bit. So let me see. Then I started playing with things like this and glazing with some larger bits of like thicker glazes and some thinner, and see how the engobe stops it here but not here. And so just playing with that and seeing how much I can get away with on that. And I really love this piece because it has such a beautiful kind of metallic glaze there that happened when those combined, and I love that. It's kind of like a little barrel piece. It has you can see some slight cutouts maybe. Do I have a white? Let me grab it. It might be hard to see. But there are some slight cutouts on that I cut into this. And so sorry if you just said this, but it's engobe. It's Engobe, something you paint on. Yeah, it's you know, I know that I like engobes. I'm not exactly sure as far as what my pottery teacher talks about. It's kind of to make your clay look like a different color. Um, if you want to tint your clay, it is similar, it seems like, to underglazes. I don't know what the difference between um, an engobe and an underglaze. I think it's possibly the amount of clay that's in it, because I believe there is some clay in both. Um, I need to, and I've tried to look it up and see what the difference is, but I think um, there's not a lot of information that I can find on the modern engobes. So I'm trying to figure all that out, but I need to look into it a little bit more. But it is something just like a glaze that you paint on. Now, some people dip their glazes, like they dip them into a big, bucket of glaze. I prefer to paint my glazes on. So every glaze that I put on is hand painted in multiple, usually 3 layers. The engobes are usually put on anywhere between 3 to probably 5 layers, depending on how thick I want them. But everything I do is painted on. So you can see this is the color of the clay, and this is the engobe, turning it into, I think this is the dark brown. Might be the black, but I think this one is the dark brown engobe. No, that's black. This one is definitely dark brown. So this is one that it did run, but not completely all the way to the bottom, thankfully. The engobe kind of slowed down the run. If this weren't here, if this engobe weren't here, these probably would have run and stuck to the kiln shelf completely. I've only had one that stuck to the kiln shelf. And you have to really, or the cookie, we put cookie, they call them cookies. They're just pieces of ceramic that you set these on so that if it does run, it sticks to that and doesn't break the kiln shelf or stick to the kiln shelf, because they're expensive to replace. But this is one of my favorites. I love how this ran, and I really love the shape of this one. I think I got a really nice shape on this, and there's some of that beautiful pink on the inside, and blues, mostly blues and browns on the outside. So that's that. And then again, working with the engobes and working with them and to see how the glaze will flow around them. And so I love the shape of that one too. The squatty bottom. Yes, the pink and like a hidden treasure, right? Student says that one is really cool. Thanks. I really like that one. So this one, I put the dots. Yes, I do love those big circles. I know. I love these because I use the engobe to make the dots. You can see the color of the clay through some of this too. So I didn't put, I didn't fill it completely with glaze in all the spaces, so that some of this clay, because it's a beautiful clay, would shine through. But I put the engobe, and then I layered up the glaze around the engobes to see if it would flow over them or around them. And it all pretty much flowed around them, which was what I was hoping would happen. So you can see the glaze was layered up here, but it chose to take paths around the engobe once it hit it, which I think is really interesting. And again, there's that hint of pink on the inside of that one. Michelle says that last one was so cool. The inside is amazing. Thank you. I love the inside on this one too. And let's see, out of that series as well is this one. Now this one, it may look like in a lot of these cases that it's flowing over the engobe, but I actually did these in like dash dot patterns. So there are breaks in these lines that go around that I specifically put in. Like there's no engobe underneath this. So it allowed the glaze to flow through. Now some of them, yes, did flow over. But I wanted to see how the glaze would work, if it would take the paths that I made for it. And in most cases, it did. It flowed through the paths that I wanted it to flow through, instead of flowing over that. Michelle says, so each one is hand glazed. That's so much work. Oh yeah. I usually use 3 colors of glaze, plus the engobe. So I start by painting on the engobe. A lot of mine have the engobe around the bottoms, at least. And then I do whatever decorative pattern I want with the engobe. Then that has to dry. And then this one has, this one may only have 2 colors of glaze, but each color, so there's the pink, and then there's the blue, which is, I think, a speckled blue. This shows you the best here. And I think those are the 2 that I used on this one, the pink and the speckled blue. But each one gets painted on wherever I want it painted on. So there's pink all around this, and there's pink all around here. And then the blues were here and here, if I remember correctly. And each color of glaze gets at least usually 2 to 3 layers. If I want it to really run, sometimes it's up to 4 or 5 layers of the glaze or more. And it says, that is so cool to make a path. I love the design that goes into these. Thanks. Thank you. I'm trying new things. I'm new at this. You know, everything I try, I experiment with. I like to play around with. And I don't really talk, I guess, when I show these all the time, I don't really talk about that process. But yeah, each one's hand painted. It has 3 to 6, you know, each color has usually 3 to 5 layers of color. Each engobe has at least 3 layers of engobe, sometimes more if I want it to be thicker. And I'll talk about that in some of my newest ones that I have to show you, that I'm really excited about. But that is what goes into them. Each one is hand painted multiple times, and then it has to dry in between. And sometimes I use a heat gun to dry them, but usually I'm working on 3. I usually do these in 3s at a time. I have found that my class is 2.5 hours long, and I can do 3 vessels generally from no glaze to completely glazed. I can get 3 done in 2.5 hours. So each one of these, you know, this set, I think it was actually, it might have been this set. This set took 2.5 hours to glaze from start to finish. That's not the time that it takes to, you know, actually make the pot and to trim the pot. So you make it on, I make these on the wheel. I don't hand build that much. Although I did hand build something this week, so we'll see. But you make them, and then that usually, I make them in 1 week. I make sometimes up to 5 or 6 of them I can get made in a week. That's in a day, because my class is weekly. So in 1 week, 1 day, I can make 5 or 6 vessels usually that will come out that are satisfactory for me. There's always a few that get messed up. And then they have to dry a little bit, and they go into what is called the damp box. And the damp box keeps them from over drying, but keeps them damp enough that they're workable. So when I come in the next week, I come in and I do what's called trimming. And trimming is where you put the things back on the wheel and you center them back up. And then you use different tools to cut out. For example, I cut out these lines. So I use the tool, this line, you put it on the wheel, you center it, you spin the wheel, keep the wheel spinning, and then you use different tools to cut these out. And so I cut out each groove by hand, and then shape it. Sometimes more, I can thin out the edges, I can thin out the bottom. So each of these bottoms that are cut out during the trimming process, because they're flat when they're first made, and then they get put on the wheel and they get spun, and I cut out this shape or whatever shape I want. Anne says, is the shape of the vessel a really organic process, or do you go with a very specific plan? I am very organic. I would like to say that I could go in with a very specific plan, and sometimes I do, but I feel like I prefer, you can see all my vessels kind of are different. I don't want to be a production potter, somebody who makes the same thing over and over again. Um, I think that is a wonderful skill, and I would like to get better to the point where if I wanted to make something very specific, I could do it and not, not mess it up too much. I could repeat it if I wanted to. But I also really enjoy the part I enjoy about working with the clay is that the it allows me to shut my brain off, and I can just focus on letting the clay do what the clay wants to do with me, right? So sometimes the clay wants to go taller, sometimes the clay wants to go wider, and there is, you can master the skill of pushing the clay where it needs to be and where you want it to be for whatever you're making. But at my skill level, um, I am just happy to have the clay um, kind of work with me and me work with the clay, so that we get different things. I don't want to make the same thing over and over again. And that's why I'm not afraid to also experiment with my glazes, because somebody might not like this. I actually really like this one. Some people may think this is ugly, and that's okay, right? But I actually really enjoy this. I think it looks kind of like melting ice cream, and I really think it's fun. But that's not for everyone, and that's okay. And that's the same thing with every piece I make. I don't try to go in with any necessarily with any attempt at making something. My pottery teacher will ask me often, like, what's your goal today? And I will say something, I will try and come up with some kind of a goal sometimes. Like, I want to make tall things this week, but it doesn't matter that they all look the same. I just want them to be a little bit taller than the things I've made before, to kind of push myself to work the clay a little bit. Susie loves that piece. Thank you. Michelle says, is the material hard when you are cutting it or still soft? It is called leather hard. So if you imagine the flexibility of leather, like a stiff leather, it's kind of like that. If you at that point when you're trimming it, when I'm making these lines in it, for example, it has to be harder than when it was molded, when the clay was first molded. But so if I picked a piece off, it would probably it wouldn't it would, I don't want to, I want to say crack off. It would separate. It wouldn't crack like this would crack because it's vitrified, but it would come off in a chunk, let's say that, and it would kind of flake off, instead of like when the clay is, when it's wet, you kind of have to pull it apart. This would kind of flake off, and that's the point where you do use the tools, because it's hard enough that when your tool hits it, it's not going to what's the word, it's not going to push in, it's not going to distort the shape at that point, but it has to be hard enough that it's not distorting the shape when you're doing it. So that's that. And this one, I use the engobe. You can see where I use the engobe around the whole bottom, but then I only used it on this side, and the glaze stuck right to there and didn't drip down. But on this side, I had no engobe on this part, so the glaze continued to flow into that area. So it's kind of like a half and half one. Susie says, I love that stripy vessel. Thank you. Michelle says, they look like works of art to me. Thank you. And I just realized, I don't know if this happened. This one developed a crack. So I don't know if I had this one in the online store. I can't remember. I'll have to take that out if I did, or else put it on, I might put it on clearance. The ones with a crack, I don't sell these. I sell them as vessels. That's what I call them. I don't try to turn them in. I don't say that it's dinnerware or anything like that. But this one, I didn't even realize this may have happened when I transported it today, because I was moving this one around today, but I have a crack in it now. And it goes all the way through. So it'd be great for a little planter, but it's not going to hold water or hold anything if you use that as a little bowl. So that one I'm going to have to make sure. I'm going to set that one aside. Mary says, ooh, I like this one. Of course, right? It's got the hole in it. I may not have ever put that in the online store because of that anyway. Or I don't remember it being there, though. I wonder if I did that today. That would suck. Anyway, it would hold beads as in. Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, when I get a crack in them, I usually don't try to sell the ones with cracks, but the more I experiment, and the more I play around and we use different kinds of clay, it's going to happen. And I've had some that have happened. And those are the ones I usually use to experiment even more than normal with the glazes. But I will probably end up making like a seconds category or something in the online store and selling them at a discount because they are good for beads. They are good for plants. Would still work for my Cheerio snacks. Yeah, it's all that stuff. It's still a nice bowl, but I can't in good faith sell that as a, you know, I would never sell that as a full price something. Oh, hi Sally. It says, love this one. It has a melted wax kind of look to it. Thank you. Yeah, I could just never sell it as, you know, full price. I would never do that. But if somebody knows it's a seconds and it's like half of what normally costs, or you know, somewhere in there, then they can use it for whatever they want. Because once the thing is even if because the clay is vitrified, it gets fired. And I don't know if I don't want to say things that people already know, but when you fire clay, you fire it once at a lower temperature, and that's when it turns to bisque. So after I do the trimming, it then turns, it gets set on a shelf, and my teacher ends up putting it in for what's called the bisque firing. And the bisque firing is when it turns it harder. It gets hard, and it can still be brittle, and it is still brittle, but it is hard enough to hold fully and put the glaze on. So you put the glaze on after you bisque. You can put glaze on before you bisque, but I don't do that. That's a whole different, it's not really a whole different thing, but you can do it, but I don't do it. So we bisque it, and then I put the glaze on, and then it gets fired at a much higher temperature, and that fully, what they call vitrifying the clay. So vitrifying is like, you know, turning to glass. Anyway, yeah. Le vitrine is French for glass. Vitrifying comes, you know, it's probably Latin, I'm guessing. Vitra is for glass. But it takes the clay and it heats it to a point where that's where you get your, you know, your food safe stuff, because the water no longer soaks in. When it's at bisque and you're putting the glaze on, the glaze soaks into the clay. It dries onto the clay very quickly because it still absorbs water from the glaze. So that's why you glaze it bisque. You can't fire it and then glaze it. Maybe you can, but some people have done refirings, and I guess you can do that, but you usually glaze at the bisque stage because the bisque still soaks up the water. The clay is soaking up the water from the glaze and allowing it to dry so you can do coat after coat after coat. And so even though this has a crack in it, it won't hold water, but also it's not the glaze. I guess that's what I'm getting to the point. It's not the glaze that protects water from getting into the clay and, you know, like ruining your dishware. It's actually that the clay has vitrified enough that it repels the water itself. So even if you use this for a planter, you don't have to worry about it like the water seeping in and ruining seeping in here and ruining the clay or ruining the pot. It would just flow through the hole. Vitrium is glass in Latin. Okay, thank you. Or vitrum. Thank you, Marianne. I knew it must have come from Latin because it's in a few different languages that way. So anyway, I'm talking a lot and showing not as much. So I wanted to actually set this one aside because that has to be a seconds. Then I did this one. This one was done where you can see the engobe was put on in these little kind of spikes around, but not through here. And the glaze flowed into those holes. I mean, I painted some glaze in there, but it also flowed around, like the glaze was painted on all the way through here and applied, and it just flowed down into those. And I really like the inside of this one. Mary says, but this is so interesting. I'm glad you're interested. I wasn't sure if people would be interested in this or not. And I'm only talking about what I know. There are, of course, people who know a lot more than me. I've only been doing this for a little while. And there are probably techniques, I'm sure there are techniques that I don't know of, but hopefully this is giving you some insight into, the work that goes into pottery. Each one of these vessels, so I make in 1 week, which is 1 day for me, because I only go on Wednesdays. In 1 week, I make 5 or 6 vessels. The next week, usually I can get them trimmed, depending on how much trim work there is to do. I'm usually trimming all the vessels the next week. And usually by that point, I had some that have already been done that came out of the bisque. So I will usually trim and maybe start to glaze, or I'll trim and I'll make 4, 5 more vessels. And then once they're trimmed, they have to be bisqued. So sometimes they'll come out of the bisque the next week for me. And if they do, then I can glaze them that week. So generally it takes, from start to finish, if everything goes smoothly, it takes me 4 weeks to get something back. So I will make it, then I will trim it, then I will glaze it, and then the next week it'll be returned to me after the glaze firing. So each vessel usually is in progress for, about a month, but that's really 4 days. But also there are 2 different firings in there that I have to fit with my teacher's firing schedule. So we're hopefully working on maybe getting me a kiln at home. And if I can do that, that's large enough for this, I can really start working on a lot more pottery. And really start pumping out a lot more, because I can make my own firing schedule, and each thing that takes like 2 weeks could be condensed into like a few days, and then the firing schedule would be cut shorter. So within a week I could probably pump out various pieces. Michelle says, I think a lot of can't or don't do pottery. A lot of people can't do it or don't do it. Is that what you mean? I do pottery mostly on the wheel. I don't know if that's what you mean, but it just brought me to something. This is another one. This is one of my very favorites, and I think I checked the online store. It doesn't show sold out. I can't believe it. Maybe people don't like it as much as I do, but this is one of my very favorite pieces that I've done. I love the colors. It's kind of like a sand and sea kind of thing to me. It feels like it's kind of beachy. I love the shape of it. I just love how it came out. And yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces. But this is done very simply with the engobe here, and then 1, 2, 3 different colors of glaze layered upon each other. So there's a lighter blue here, this darker blue here, and a yellow one here. And they're slightly layered over each other. This one is layered over this one a little bit more to try to kind of make those 2 run together. Whereas this one, I didn't want it to run as much, and it was used on the inside as well. But I do pottery on the wheel. I do not I don't do a lot of hand building, and that's where you build things by hand. I do it spinning on the wheel, and where you form it like this. You see people doing that. That's the whole the kind of the ghost movie where they're doing the wheel. Um, Michelle says, yes, sorry, multitasking on messages. I meant that most of us don't make pottery. Yeah, I think, I don't know a lot of you that do. I know Harry does, and Harry does a lot of hand building, his pieces, which is really cool. I'm trying to get into that a little bit more, but I feel like that for me, the will just, it allows me to shut my brain off a little more. But as I'm doing more and more things, hand building is starting to look a little more fun. So we'll see. Marianne says, pretty, thank you. And then what's next? This one I really like. In these blacks and browns and this speckled. This is a speckled clay, but there's also, I believe I used a speckled engobe on the bottom because it's a little bit lighter and it matches this color a little bit more. And of course, this is a glaze on here. So this is the glaze, same as the inside, but I wanted to use the speckled engobe at the bottom to kind of mimic that. And then I have these kind of black drips and the brown engobe here. And it says that black glaze is amazing. Teresa says all of them are so unique. Yeah, I don't try to do two that are ever the same. I've tried that because I had one that I loved a lot, and a lot of people loved it, and it sold. Thank you very much. I believe you're watching. And so I tried to make things that were similar in the glaze, but you just never know what the glaze is going to do. Like I may have done an extra coat at one point, or I may have overlapped them a little bit more in one. And so it's very hard for me to ever make anything similar twice. It just doesn't work. Let go. Then there's this one, which I love, this orangey and blue. And then these drips kind of mimic this color, this glaze down here, which is a blue speckled glaze. And then again, that speckled engobe down there. And this just kind of has, I went light. So I went light on the glaze on the inside to see what would happen. And you can see some of the, it kind of lets some of the clay peek through, which I think is kind of cool. I kind of like that. Oh, that one has cat hair. Oop, cat hair in it, of course. Teresa says, I think I own 5 of your pieces now. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I hope you're loving them when you get them. But I feel myself getting better and better as time goes on. I'm really happy with, like, this is a very thin walled. There's not too heavy of a bottom on this one, but it's heavy enough that, you know, it sits. It doesn't. That's what's important to me is we use a lot of vessels for like storing beads and things like that. And I know you want something that's not going to tip over easily. So I try to weight the bottoms enough, but also not have them be too chunky, right? Hello, Kay. Thanks for joining us. So that's that one. And what was next? This one was one of the next ones. This one, I have almost kept this one. I love this black top on here with the blue. I think this only had 2 different glaze colors. And I think this is actually a very deep kind of green blue, but it comes out looking black. Whereas I do love blue and orange. Me too. And so this one, I made the layers very close, but not quite. So I didn't know if the black was going to run down into this blue or not, but it did not. And the blue mostly ran down here. So there's this delineation here of some of the clay that you can see the actual clay body come through, which I kind of like that. I think it's fun. I see a little bit of the actual original clay, which is this. coming through. Let's see, they're in my craft room, never had them tip over. Good. that's the point, right? Yes, it should be. It is one of my points. And then this is one of the larger bowls that I've made that kind of, this one was in this same family, firing. These are pretty much, I believe, the same glazes, except I don't think I used this blue up here. I can't remember exactly. I think I used this blue, but without the speckle. No, maybe. This is a speckled clay, though. That speckle may be from the blue. I'd have to look at my notes. So I think this is the same. I think it is the same three, but they're reversed. So the yellow's on top, and then the gray is in the middle, and then the blue is on the bottom. But you can see this clay is not speckled, and this clay is. So the glaze came out totally different as a light blue instead of a speckled blue. Anne says that yellow on top is delicious. I think it's really pretty, right? It's like an off kind of, it's not a bright yellow. And then I did it around the rim, but then I used the blue on the inside. So those two kind of were made in the same way. And then my newest, not my newest, but I don't know if these were last week or the week before, I showed you all this one. So this is where I'm starting to use the engobe in a different way. So the engobe is around the bottom here, but I'm also starting to draw with it and just do little patterns. So this is like these kind of like suns and spirals. And I wanted to see how if I draw with it and then I glaze completely over it, because down here I'm never glazing over it. I want the glaze to run to it, but I don't want to go over it. So I wanted to see how much it would distort the glaze by painting the glaze over it and seeing if it would still pop through. And as you can see on the lighter glazes, you can kind of see them popping through still, which I love. And down here, as it gets darker, they don't as much, but you can still see some of them. But what I think is really interesting is you can see like this spiral, you can see how the glaze still ran according to being around the engobe, right? It still ran around the engobe. So it's still doing that. And I've been playing with this more and more. And so that's one of them. Marianne says patterned one is awesome. This one, this patterned, thank you. Either way, thank you. Anne says, do you use any of your pottery as display in the shop? If I walked in and saw items being displayed in them, I would be all swoony. I sell them. So these go into the online store usually. And sometimes once they go into the online store, I take some of them up to the shop to put on the shelves. I don't display things in them. But I do have them for sale up there as well. Now, not all of them, because that would be a little bit much, I think. Or maybe once I have a bigger collection, I'll make a space for them. But they're just displayed here and there, and I use them in the window as displays, as being able to be sold up that way. But yeah, that is. And then this one. This one had a crack in it, but the glaze sealed the crack. So that's good when that sometimes happens. Because the clay, the reason you get cracks, there are many reasons. But usually sometimes it's the thickness of the bottom. And when your clay is drying, if it doesn't dry all at the same rate, it can crack. So if your bottom is really thick, which this one wasn't necessarily really thick, it can do that. Sometimes if you have too much water in your clay, it can cause it to crack. But a lot of times, or sometimes anyway, when it does crack, the glaze will fill it in, and then that's great. I still do need to put water in this one. I haven't put this in the online store yet because I'm considering whether I'm keeping it or not because I really love it. And I have to put water in it and see if it holds or if it leaks ultimately. This one I did with the engobe, and I drew the engobe. It started here, and I just drew it all down here in one kind of line, going down and down and down and swirling around and all the way until it got down to here. And then I put glaze over top of it. And then I took a toothbrush and I took different colors of glazes and I dipped the toothbrush in it, and then I flicked the bristles so that it would spatter. And so one side is spattered with more of a pink and one side is spattered with a blue, but they're very light. And I think ultimately they just kind of joined together in with and kind of meshed in with the other glaze, because I don't really see a lot of signs of it other than sometimes there's some blue and sometimes there's a little bit more pink. And but it's mostly, I don't think that was I don't think it did as much as I was hoping it was going to do. And on the inside is that blue and that pink that I spattered on the outside. So there, it's on the speckled clay, and you can see there's a very light blue and a very light pink over that speckle on the inside. And then the other piece I got back was this one, and I love this one. I got a lot of compliments from my classmates on this one, and somebody actually in the class asked me to please send them, because I take photos of these once they're glazed with the glazes set up beside them, so I know what glazes I used, and they asked me to send it to them because they want to try this kind of glaze combination. And I think I want to play around with this one again because I really am happy with how it came out. And I love how each one of these, these were painted down to here. And I love how each one ran into this bottom color. Because if they hadn't done that, it could have looked, weird if only some of them did that. But they all ended up running at least a little bit. That's the least that they've run. Susie says the inside of your pottery is as pretty as the outside. I try and play with the insides, Terry says this one is beautiful. Thank you. I'm really proud of this one. I really like this one, and I like how this one came out. So that's that one. And then my newest ones that I'm really, really happy with. This is one of them. So this is another one where I drew on it with these little spirals and suns, and they're actually all the way down here, but it gets so dark, the glaze, that they don't really show through, and that's okay because they just kind of peak at the top. But this has 3 different colors of glaze. There's a deep blue here, there's this reddish color in here, and then there's this kind of tangerine or pinky orange color up there. And I put the blue and that tangerine color on the inside as well. So that's a brand new one. I just got that back yesterday, and I'm really happy with how that came out. Super excited with these. And I just love this kind of orangey into red into blue color scheme on that one and how it came out. There's even a hint of kind of this kind of almost green black in the middle when these 2 glazes combined, because when glazes combine, they create their own chemistry and you never know what's going to happen. Love this pattern one too, says Marianne. Thank you. I'm really happy with how this came out. Vicky says gorgeous. Thanks. I love how the inside came out too. So that's that one. The other new one is this one, and I did this squiggle pattern through the whole thing. I don't know if you can see, if you look really closely, you can see the squiggle colors. My lighting is probably not good enough here. But you can see the squiggles up through here and some of them down through here. But as it gets darker, you kind of just are left with mostly the middle, which I kind of really like. At first I was a little sad you can't see more of it because I did work hard on getting it all over. Like this whole little cup is filled with those squiggles. But I kind of liked that little picture window in that one. And then I did just that deep blue color on the inside of that just to keep it simple. But I really like the colors I got on that. And this engobe, I went over this, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 times. I had to trace that whole pattern over the mug 3 or 4 different times. And then the last one I got, and my very favorite one right now, is this one. This one just came out exactly the way I had hoped, and probably actually even better. This engobe I did this way and kind of piped it on. And this is probably, I don't know if I did 6 layers. You can see that there's actually a thickness to this, whereas normally it kind of fades in. Like if you look at this one, I didn't do as many coats and there's not that kind of thickness to it. This, I got a thickness to it. It was a fairly simple pattern, so I could take the time, because taking the time to do this pattern more than 2 to 3 times is hard, right? That's patience is hard for me that way. But this one was pretty easy to get some really nice thick layers in that you can actually see. And then I had no idea what this color was going to be like. This ochre, I think it's an ochre. And it is more beautiful than I even thought it was going to be. I was kind of really afraid to do it on this one because I love the idea of these pink and purple together. And then I was like, do I really want to mess it up? Because honestly, this color on the bottle looked a little bit sad. And I was like, I don't know if I want my piece to look bland and sad. But it actually came out really, really nice. And so that is my latest piece and my probably my newest favorite piece right now is this one. And I may keep this one. I don't keep very many of my own things. I've only ever kept 1 or 2. I gave Andrew 1 or 2. But yeah, this one I might keep because I really like it. We'll see. We'll see. Hello, Anna. It's so fun to see so many different pieces. Thank you for joining us. Angela says, beautiful. Susie says, love the colors. Thank you. Vicky says, wow, great colors. Love the sine waves, right? Yeah, so I'm playing around with things like that. And I started working on, let me see if I can I show? Let me see. I started working on some pieces yesterday. Let me see if I can add this while we're live so I can show you. Is it going to upload or not? Let's find out. But I started working on some pieces yesterday. There we go. And this is what I started doing on the inside of one of the pieces yesterday. Trying to make the insides of things interesting too, and always keep the insides as interesting as I can, because I think that's fun, right? I think so. And so I started using this, just kind of making this kind of squiggly pattern on the inside. And I had trimmed some pieces yesterday, and I just started getting into some glazing, but doing this took took a long time. So I had to do, I think I got to 3 coats on this one, and I still would like to add more, but because it's on the inside, I may not. I may just start working on the outside. But did that, and then also, let me see if I can find, yeah, here's the other one that I started working with. See if I get, it just takes a little bit to upload. Here's the other one. I carved in, so I carved in these rings when it was in trimming stage. And then what I started to do is I started to fill in, like flood fill these 2 center rings with engobe, because I want to see what's going to happen. And I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this. I'm not sure if I'm going to put some engobe in the top ones, but what happens when you trim in like this, certain glazes, when they run over things, they call it kind of breaking. I think they call it breaking. Some of the glazes change dramatically when they have surfaces to break over. So these rings that are carved in here, some of the glazes will react really well and change kind of how they look when they flow over those things. So I think I'm going to keep these 2 flood filled with engobe, and the rest of them I think I'm going to play around with maybe breaking of some of the glazes. And then the other thing that I've been working on, let me see if I have a picture of that too, is this. And this is a planter. So this is hand built. So I did not do this on the wheel. This I rolled out slabs of clay and then shaped them into, well, cut them into a circle, shaped them into this conical forms. There are 2 conical forms, one on top, one on the bottom. The bottom one has a base attached that I just put on this week. So it got its base on this week. I cut the top off the one so that the other one fits down into it. I did a kind of a little scalloped, almost pie crust like edge across the top of it. And in the point that goes down into this other one, the top one, there are 2 holes drilled so that water can flow out and it can flow into the base. So the bottom one will catch any overflow of water and still suspend the plant up, hopefully out of the water, unless you went crazy watering it. But the plant would then go in the top. So I was going to trim out pieces in this. So like I was going to cut little grooves in this and make it kind of funky, but I decided I wanted to play more with the engobes and the glaze on this. So I left it smooth, and it's going to be bisque fired probably next week, I would guess, or maybe later this week. I missed this bisque firing that she was doing, that she was loading up yesterday. But that is going to be a planter, hopefully, if it all goes well. It's my first time really hand building much, and so we'll see. I had to make connections to fit the base on, and we'll see. Hopefully those connections hold and don't crack or break off. But that is that. So that's it, my friends. Let me flip the camera around real quick, and we're going to say a quick goodbye because I should be working on shipping. I'm treating this live like it's a normal live. We've been going almost 2 hours, but thank you all for hanging out with me. I hope you like that. I hope it gave you an extra view into the things that I'm doing and how it's done. I know I don't talk about it. I show you my pottery usually every time I get it back during the lives, but I don't actually talk about the processes too much because we're going into other things. So hopefully that gave you a little idea of what goes into my pottery and the kind of the way I think about it even a little bit. Like I said, I don't try to mass produce anything. I like to play with glazes. I like to experiment with those. You know, I'm one of those people that I think we see this a lot in the jewelry world where people say they're not creative. And I don't, I was talking with Andrew about this because the word artist is not something I've ever considered myself, right? I don't know if that's because it's such a charged word for me, or I just feel like I've not reached that level, that there's something like that's like a high level. Like I consider Andrew an artist. Um, I I consider myself now a maker, and I don't think that's any worse or better than artist. I don't want to start that fight with anybody, right? Um, I just have a hard time calling myself an artist because I can't necessarily draw. And yes, I do believe everybody can learn to do everything. So I do, drawing is a skill that can be acquired. I believe that. Painting is a skill that can be acquired. But I am not that, right? I can't do that naturally. It does not come naturally to me. So when I create things, I consider myself a maker, and I kind of have that feel about things. Um, I like to play with things. I like to see where they go. I'm not trying to, draw a scene or draw, necessarily like some of my classmates, they draw these really pretty pictures in underglaze of like horses or dogs, or I'm not ever gonna, maybe, but I shouldn't say never, but probably not going to be me. That's going to be doing that. But this kind of like the mark making and seeing how things work with the mark making, and like these kind of squiggles and just playing around with that. That's the kind of thing I like to do. And that's kind of my process. I just see where kind of things take me, and um, like when I started making this one, I had no idea. I put one squiggle down, and I was like, what did I just do? Like, what am I going to do with that? And then I just play around with it and see what happens. And people may like them, people may not like them. Um, I happen to really like this one, and I may keep it. I don't know. But yeah, it's fun for me, and it's one of the things that I found that shuts my brain down. Um, and so I try to challenge myself to do new things. I always tell my teacher that I'm not an artist, and she's always like, but you are. Like, you're not drawing, you're not necessarily like painting scenes or particular things, but you are working with that mentality of how does this work and how is it going to come together, and trying new things. And so for me, I call myself a maker. Um, and um, and I think that fits for me. I think you got to find your own definition of things, and for yourself. I think that goes with a lot of things, right? You can define yourself how you want to. Um, I just, and maybe it's my to my own detriment that I don't want to call myself an artist. I don't know. Like maybe I should think of myself more highly, or I don't know. But I like the word maker, and I like how that feels. And I think it's important to, find your way and find things that feel good. And we talk about this a lot in the store when we have people in and they say they're not creative. And yet, um, I had somebody that came into the store the other day, and they picked out things that they liked, and they told me how they would like them to go together, right? But they said, but I'm not an artist and I'm not creative. They literally designed in their head with me probably 6 different necklaces and bracelets. Um, they just didn't put them together. So I made the point to tell them, I said, you are creative. You just designed these with me. You did this. I didn't do it. I showed you things and you said, oh, I'd like that with that and that. I said, you literally designed these in your head. You did the creative part. You just didn't do the physical part of putting it together. Um, and I think I think that's an important thing to remember, is that, I think many of us are very creative. And sometimes we don't know how to let that creativity out. And I think that's where, if you're watching my William Tries Things page here, because I'm broadcasting there as well for this one because I wanted to show my pottery on there, as well as for Allegory Gallery. But I think that if you are a maker, excuse me, or if you are somebody who wants to be creative, I think a lot of people are creative in their minds, but they don't always know how to let it come out. And I think that's where we as adults get very frustrated with ourselves because we expect things to happen fast and happen perfectly and happen exactly as we want them. And I think that's one of the reasons I really like pottery, is because I have realized that when I try to do the same thing twice, it looks totally different each time. I do not control this process. Um, and maybe you can get good enough at it. I'm sure there are people that, get good enough at it that or practice enough with it that they are able to make the same things happen all the time, with combos of glazes and how they use them. But for me, it's the playing part that's fun. It's the part of not getting in my head about it and just being free to take what I have in my brain and put it down and see what happens. And I think that's the fun part. And I think that's the same thing with jewelry too, is that we can take things and maybe we have a color in our head and we want a color that comes together with something else. And we look in our stash and we say, okay, is this color? And we lay them down on the board and we string them up. And you kind of play with that. And in jewelry, yes, oftentimes you can reproduce things easier, as far as, especially with stringing. But at the same point, it's that play and that taking an idea, and like I said, maybe it's as abstract as just colors you want to use or shapes that you want to use, and just making it your own. And I encourage everyone to do that. When people come in the store, I'm like, please sit down with me. Let's do it. I try and talk people into it, because I want people to realize how creative they are. And I know people watching us here, most of the people watching us are watching Allegory Gallery, and you all are makers already, or artists, or whatever you want to call yourself. But you are creators. But if you're watching from somewhere else or you're new to us, please know we love to see what you get up to, and we want you to try. We want you to play. We want you to have fun with this. That's kind of, Allegory Gallery's whole thing is community and showing you that you can create. And we want to see it. We want to be part of your community. We want you to be a part of ours. And we want to hang out and make stuff with you. So I'm just showing stuff today, and I'm about done. So thank you for watching for almost 2 hours. I need to get back to packing and shipping, and I will. But we appreciate it so much. Thank you for watching. And we hope that if you haven't hit that like button or that subscribe button yet, that you will. And you'll hang out with us more often. We go live pretty much every weekday, usually at 7:30 p.m. This week's a little bit different. We're doing a different thing this week. But usually we do a little live show, a live sale, and some talking and some chatting and some demos and tutorials and all that good stuff, generally every weekday. We hope you'll join us. Please hang out with us, get creative with us, have some fun. All right. Thank you all for watching tonight. If you have any questions about my process or what I do, please feel free to ask. You can send emails. You can catch us on a live. Happy to answer questions that we can. And we'll be back here tomorrow with something else. I don't know what yet. I'll be at the store until 6. So Andrew may pop on at 5 and do a tutorial or something. I don't know. Or we'll wait till I get home and we'll do something together. We'll see. But thank you for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a pleasure hanging out. Thank you for all the compliments too. It's always nice. Vicky says, looking forward to seeing your pottery when you reopen. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of this is going to go into the online store once I reopen. Some of it's already there, but pretty much everything, except maybe a few that I might want to keep, will be going on into the online store soon after we reopen, if not when we reopen the online store next week. All right. Thank you so much. Have an amazing evening, and we'll be back here tomorrow. Bye, everybody.